What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something to go back to the shop for or not. I'm going to be talking about Superman Annual Number 1. So Superman Annual Number 1 is still from the same creative team that has brought you the amazing Superman title that's going on right now. So that's Pter J. Tomasi with Patrick Gleason, and this has actually got art by Jorge Jimenez, who's done art in a few other books previously, but this is going to be a real showcase for him. And this is just more of the same amazing Superman. So let's dive into the story. Where we start out, Clark is out in the fields of his local farm, and he's trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the earth around here. The crops are dying, the water's drying up, and ultimately it's showing some really serious environmental concerns. Instead of deciding to just wander around on the ground, he decides to don his Superman suit, go up and catch a better vantage point. And at that point in time, he realizes that the riverbeds are running dry, the lakes are going, and then there's obviously a sinkhole in the bottom of this overall lake. And who does it turn out to be? It turns out to be Swamp Thing. And Swamp Thing is in a very confrontational kind of mood because he's just this giant maw, this giant mouth and head that's coming out of the bottom of this lake bed. And he gets into the situation where he's kind of confronting Superman. And Superman and Swamp Thing, they're starting to have a dialogue. You know, he understands who he is. They both really have a rapport. Whether they're from the same universe or not, they seem to understand each other. And then everybody's, like real happy until Superman touches him. And Superman, if you recall, when he touched the ground, it left a blue handprint. And he's kind of been at the center of this whole DC Rebirth spectacle that's really going on, and the interactions with Mr. Oz. Superman is a very key focal point of this because he's a man from outside of this universe. So he's been pulled here from some other kind of situation that has caused him to become a kind of anomaly or an aberration inside this current continuity. And that's what Swamp Thing is here about. And we learn after we have this really cool, drawn-out battle sequence, which is pretty awesome. Swamp Thing is super holding his own. He turns all electrical blue, kind of like, old-school Electric Superman. And then ultimately it takes them driving each other down into the earth so that way he can feel the roots in his reconnection with the green to create a situation where he can become himself again. And then Swamp Thing's just like, oh, thank you for that. Now it's your turn. Wham! And just starts going to town on him again. It's like, nope, we are past the time for words. We're trying to fuse, and Superman's like, nope, I want to talk, I don't want to fuse, it sounds like really sketchy stuff. And Swamp Thing's like, well, time's passed, and just glumps him, just straight up swallows him and pours him down into the earth. And that's where Swamp Thing has the ability to tell Superman about what's going on. And Superman himself, because he's from another world, he is drawing extra solar radiation because he's resonating at a slightly different frequency. Because if you think of the idea that each universe resonates at its own specific frequency, if you have an outside source that has come in and is now secondary, resonating at its own frequency, there are going to be some situations where there's peaks that kind of amplify different things. And that's what's happening to Superman. He's drawing so much solar radiation that it's creating focal points where he's located. And in the past few days, while he's been around his farm, it's causing extra amounts of solar energy to be in that area, which is drying things up and causing real serious concerns. But it's also potentially causing danger for the universe. So as they complete this kind of fusion aspect and Swamp Thing relays these things to Superman, he's got a really serious understanding of where these things are going, and the ultimate solution is for Superman to let go of everything that's holding him back, which is his memories and his ties to the alternate universe. He's not treating this place like it's his home, which is keeping him from really becoming harmonious with the environment around him. And that's what he's got to kind of take to task. That's the thing that he has to really solve for himself. And that's a really cool kind of concept because essentially he's trying to create a mental progression, but he needs to do this physically in order to kind of avoid any destructive process. But he's really trying to integrate, Pter J. Tomasi is really trying to integrate Superman more into this universe and give a reason for why he would act more like this is his home, rather than some sort of, alien invader that happens to be torn from where he wants to be, where he should be, where he has been. So that's a really cool concept. Overall, I really like the way that this story is developed, the whole aspect of DC Rebirth, and kind of tied it into who Superman is and what Superman needs to do moving forward. However, it doesn't necessarily give me the kind of progression on DC Rebirth that I would love to have. I want more hints, I want more history, I want more appearances by different characters. I want more of that intrinsic kind of backstory that's tying everything together. See that kind of behind-the-scenes look at DC Rebirth. This didn't quite give me that, but overall, it's a super cool story between Superman and Swamp Thing seriously holds his own against the Man of Steel. I'm sure he was holding back a little bit, but it was really cool to kind of see him take the Man of Steel to task, I guess. As far as the art's concerned, Jorge Jimenez does a really good job. I like the way that his pencils are. I like his portrayal of Superman. His detail on Swamp Thing is fantastic. And the way that he does his panel layouts, there's the borders in the situation where Superman and Swamp Thing, they're kind of like having their conflict and they're inside the Earth. It's just, it's really good layout, really good setup for the art. And he's going to be doing the art for Super Sons. So you're going to have Pter J. Tomasi, the writer of this book, and Jorge Jimenez, the artist of this book, doing that Super Sons book that's going to be coming out in February. So this is just a really good indicator of what it's going to look and sound like. So overall, I have to recommend Superman Annual Number 1, and it's probably one of the best books of the week. So that's my review of Superman Annual Number 1, but I want to know what you guys think too, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe right there to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.